Let's talk about groups first, and then we'll come back. With groups, we use the groups tool in Blackboard, just I just showed you. The idea is that this is to facilitate what would be group participation in a face-to-face class. This is done virtually via Blackboard. You will be given exercises, what I call them, or group exercises, and the idea is that you're learning the material for the first time, so I don't hold you to, I guess, as stringent standards that it's only your work. It's a group exercise. So the idea is that once you get the exercise within the groups tool in Blackboard, that you will talk to each other. If you have questions, you ask each other and help each other out, and really it's a group assignment. So once you finish it, I really think of it as a group project. Once you finish that assignment, you get basically credit, for doing the assignment. If for whatever reason life is busy for you, or you just don't want to do the group tool, so you're not asking questions or answering them, you just finish the assignment and send it to me, you're still going to get credit. But you should just be mindful that with this class, especially with online classes and in the real world, in programming, computer programming, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get back. So you never know. Someone has a question and you decide not to answer it, and you have to be mindful that maybe you might have a question down the road that you really hope that one of your colleagues will answer for you. I do moderate this, and I will look in there, and if people have questions and no one's answering, obviously I step in and help out. So we have the group tool. There will be exercises, not every week, but pretty often every other week. The weeks that there are not exercises, group exercises, there's typically a homework assignment released or assigned that day. And with that, the assumption is that you will be directing all of your questions again to the discussion forum. You will not be in the groups forum. So here again you would be in homework 1 and you would ask a question like, I don't understand X, and the I will reply to things, but your colleagues, your fellow students can reply to things. Now the idea here is that when you ask a question, you're really looking for not an answer on how to do the assignment, but really an answer to a very specific question. Like some of the examples here, I may post a few other ones, but at the end of the assignment, the idea is that the homework that you turn in is really and truly your work. I like to model this class as much as I can in the real world, but we also have to be realistic as well, that this is a course and you're getting grades, and I'm grading you individually, not as a class. So again, the discussion tool. So in brief, if you answer someone's question, you do it in a very meaningful and helpful sort of way, you'll get credit for participation. I'm not a dictator about running this, but I really do advise everyone to use these tools to your advantage and not merely just see it as a grocery list item to tick off. Netiquette, again, if this is a new first time for you for an online course, this is something you should be aware of. Basically, it's being polite and having manners. That's the thing that you want to think about, or our motto must be think before you post. So just be mindful of when you're posting, who you're posting to, who the audience is, the language you're using. For example, this is all here, and I expect you to read through this. I might even have like a little sort of a little exercise quiz for you to look at that and answer a few questions. But basically, if you type in all caps, you're more or less screaming to your audience. So just think about that. I'm not going to belabor the point, but netiquette, we need to use that in this course. Homeworks and final project. I give due dates and times for homeworks, so turn them in on time. The main thing with turning them on time is you don't want to fall behind the class, because if you fall behind the class, you're likely to suffer on each subsequent assignment, because the class really does tend to be cumulative. Each module works under the assumption that you mastered the module that came before that. So submit homeworks on time. Just a little note here, again, this is something that you perhaps should already know with a 3-credit course, but plan on devoting roughly 8 to 10 hours, maybe a little less if you whiz right through the material for whatever reason, or if you need extra time, then you're going to need more. So just really use that as a way to budget. It could be less or more, and it really depends on the individual, but that's what I have as sort of a guideline for you. You'll take 2 tests. They'll each be administered on Blackboard, and we'll deal with that as it comes closer. You're going to submit all like group exercises and homeworks, I guess the final project. Those will all be submitted to me via email, and you'll want to put a meaningful subject heading in there, so something like IST 538 Homework 1 submission, something like that, just so it comes in with an actual header that's meaningful, because remember, I've got to sort through many emails here in order to grade your homework. Generally what I do is I just grade the homework in the email, reply back with a grade, and then any comments that goes with the homework, that'll all be in an email for you. If there's any disability support issues or concerns, I've left information here. If you are that person, you probably already have this information, but I've listed it here. Please contact the Campus Center Disability Resource Center, and they will contact me, and we can get the ball rolling with anything regarding disability support. And academic integrity, I've already talked about really the difference between group exercises and homeworks and tests for that matter, and the final project, that you really need to follow academic integrity, because that's really important, especially for an online class. Let's just briefly look at the schedule. Schedule's subject to change, just because sometimes, and I always give you plenty of leeway for this, but I might add a video, perhaps change some code snippets or something like that. There could be weather issues. Even though this is an online class, the assumption is that we shouldn't have any weather interruptions, but the power could go out, and we've seen that happen in Albany, never mind in rural areas where sometimes it's more likely to happen. So we'll deal with that as it comes up. Just so you know, this is the general layout of each module. You'll have readings, you'll have videos, a presentation. This is an activity. This is not really what I consider exercise. So beginning earlier in the class, or certain parts of the class as we go on, I'll have you do an activity. This is not a graded thing, but this is like how to install Notepad++. I'm not going to grade you on that. Again, another activity that you need to do is self-enroll in one of the groups. So you have that. There won't be too many of those, but again, starting off, we'll have one. With exercises, this is the group exercise here, and I will add group exercise to there. It just says exercise. Here you'll have a link to a possible video, potentially, or to an actual exercise information assignment, if you want to call it that, and it tells you what to do, where to get any sort of code that you might need, images, so on and so forth. So that's the basic layout. Here's one. It's a little more typical for week 2. We have readings, videos, sample files. Again, the sample files, I might reference them in one of my videos, so what I want to do is actually allow you to get them and put them into your Notepad++ editor and manipulate them, and perhaps for one of the assignments you can copy code from there. You don't always have to type everything out by hand each time. Sometimes there might be a PDF, an image, examples of code that doesn't work, and we might go through and look at how you fix a XML document. Group exercise. Normally I'm going to link it off like I have here with something like that. Not always. It just depends. But normally I will. And some of this is subject to change. But basically for your week 2, I'll have you potentially mark up a document in XML, and I'll give you some code to do it. I will probably mention this again, but generally anytime I use, I'm not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about XML code later on. So that's it. We have assignments when they're due. I will release them from there. A lot of times these links are dead until the assignment is actually assigned. So like this one is dead, it doesn't go anywhere. And you'll have ample time to get an assignment done, but just to be aware that if the link is not working, it will work when it's time. I always make sure it does. We have tests here. That's when they'll be released, and we'll talk more about that when I actually release the test to you and when I close it. I wouldn't worry about that now. You'll have, again, ample time to finish tests. We have one holiday week, if you will. This is a Thanksgiving break, and the whole week you will be more or less off. Again, it's online, so it's a little bit different, but you won't have any new material released until that weekend of November 28th on Saturday. So I think as the course wears on, the schedule will start to feel pretty natural, but I just wanted to give you some basics of that. If you have any questions about this video or the syllabus, please post them on the Blackboard site, and I'll show you how to do that. You would go over to the Blackboard site, and you can go to Ask a Question, and then in here you want to post the question under the syllabus thread, or forum rather, and then create a thread, and you might ask something, you know, like what time are the virtual hours, something like that. You know the time already, but that would be something like that, and you could submit it, and it would have you as the author, published, and then it would be an unread post for me to read. Since I post this, it already shows that it's not, that it's already been read. But in discussions, there's all sorts of pigeonholes already set up. Ask a Question should be more of a kind that's completely generic, that doesn't already have a forum, so I can't think of anything offhand, but any question that does not fit in one of these pigeonholes, you can just put it in Ask a Question. Anything about the general design of the course, needed clarity about any of the aspects of the course, just go ahead and throw it in the syllabus here, and I can answer it. And we can go back to the course site by just clicking here. And I think that about does it. Again, feel free to ask a question via the Blackboard discussion tool.